Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is set for release later this fall in early October. It currently has an October 11th release date, and it's shaping up to be a fantastic game, complete with some of the greatest fan service that you'll see from a major licensed game such as this. My co-host and I, we were taking a look at some gameplay footage of, the demo from those who have played it. And in particular, we were taking a look at some of the special moves that they put into the game because someone had uploaded online basically a montage of all of the major special moves that were in the demo. And we were just blown away at the level of detail and just the sheer graphical fidelity of it all. And specifically, I was impressed with the speed of the game itself. It really captures that Tenkaichi feel, that fast-paced Dragon Ball combat that you want in a game like this. So the gameplay really doesn't concern me to that extent. Like, they have the basics down. What does concern me, however, are basically two things. The first is some of the missing characters that are on the roster. And I'm sure they'll be making more announcements before the game is released. They still have another 3 months to go. But these are all of the characters that have been revealed, confirmed, thus far. And many of which you can find gameplay for online. Or at least a trailer for, if they weren't included in the showcase demo that's been circling around YouTube recently. Now, I believe the season pass for the game, which has confirmed, I think, over 20 characters, is picking specifically from Dragon Ball Superhero, which is the last Dragon Ball movie that was released. I actually saw that in theaters. It's a pretty decent Dragon Ball film, if I must say so myself. And the upcoming Dragon Ball Daima, which is an upcoming Dragon Ball show. That, from my understanding, is going back in time a little bit to when Goku was a kid or something. I'm not sure what the details of that are. The season pass is apparently going to be plucking characters from Daima. So, yeah, this is what I'm referring to. Dragon Ball Daima revolves around Goku and his friends who are turned into children due to a conspiracy. So it kind of sounds like GT in a way. And speaking of GT, that's the major Dragon Ball IP that's missing in this game thus far. So far, there have not been any reveals for any of the Dragon Ball GT characters or the Dragon Ball movie characters. The Dragon Ball Z filler characters are also missing. So there hasn't been any Android 13 or Super Android 13. There hasn't been any Bojack reveal. There hasn't been any Lord Slug or Turles or Cooler reveal or Janemba reveal. On the filler side, there hasn't been any Garlic Jr. reveal. And on the GT side, there hasn't been any mention of the GT version of Trunks, Han, the Elder Shenron, dragon characters, Gogeta Super Saiyan 4, the GT version of Vegeta, Super Android 17, or any version of the baby character. So, some may be wondering, will GT be in the game at all? As they should, because those characters were available in the older Tenkaichi games. So, I did some searching, and apparently, there has been a recent confirmation as of today by the English voice actor of Goku, Sean Schemmel, who has confirmed that Goku Super Saiyan 4 will be in the game, despite the fact that there has not been an official confirmation and no footage to support that claim. And apparently he revealed this information, I guess, at this event right here. So if Sean Schemmel says that the GT stuff will be in the game, then, that makes me feel easy. Regarding the movie characters and the filler characters of Dragon Ball Z, whether those characters will be in the game or not, it's possible that some of those characters will be in the game day one at launch. It's also possible that those characters will be withheld for upcoming DLC expansions. I don't think those characters will be left out. So that somewhat eases my first concern. My second concern is how the online ranked or just the online modes in general is going to be handled. Because currently, there is not a fun Dragon Ball game that can be played competitively online. There's really only two current Dragon Ball fighting games that you can play right now. There's Xenoverse 2, and then there's Fighter Z. And there's glaring issues with both as a fun competitive Dragon Ball game. On one hand, with Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, that particular game is extremely underdeveloped. It was not developed to be a competitive esports game. And because of the stupid, and I mean stupid implementation of a stamina bar, which is pretty much your only line of defense in that game, the whole competitive aspect of it basically boils down to who gets the first hit. And then you have Dragon Ball Fighter Z. And Dragon Ball Fighter Z was developed to be a competitive esports game, a serious competitive esports game. But unfortunately, the game was designed almost entirely around the concept of the rushdown character. There's really no grapple characters in that game. Your defensive options in that game are extremely weak and are objectively lacking. And this has flared a greater discussion online, particularly on Reddit, from those who dislike Dragon Ball Fighter Z because of its lack of defensive options in that game. And basically, as the player, once your opponent enters you into a full screen combo, it is impossible to get out of that combo unless they either finish that combo or they mess up the combo somehow. And you might be granted enough frames to actually, turn the tide of the battle. And because that game was designed entirely around the concept of the rushdown character, what it's done is it's scared off the casual audience. You only have people that have played the game for thousands of matches. I particularly remember reading recently one Reddit post where someone had practiced in that game for over 100 hours, and they still could not get down the whole concept of how you're supposed to combo in that game and what have you, and they still weren't having fun. Neither one of these games are fun to play online. Both Xenoverse 2 and Fighter Z, for different reasons, both of these games are simply not fun to play online against anybody from a competitive perspective. I think Dragon Ball Sparking Zero will finally resolve that urge for a Dragon Ball fighting game that also offers a fun online competitive experience. But in order to do that, there has to be some balancing involved. And so after conducting some more searching online, I have found what the development team of Sparking Zero intends to do to address this issue that's present in pretty much every Dragon Ball game. Part of what's wrong with a game like Dragon Ball Fighter Z is that if you go and you play that game online, it is filled with people who want to play the same broken, overpowered characters, which usually are either your fusion characters or some of your most powerful Super Saiyan forms. So to address this issue of balancing, because Dragon Ball Sparking Zero will have teams where you can select up to 5 different playable characters online. It's not a tag team game. It's still going to be a one-on-one, 1v1 affair, but you'll have access to a team of 5 or a team of 3 or what have you. In order to address potential balancing issues where players will choose the most overpowered characters, what they've done here is implemented a point system. So now I'm going to go over basically what this is. The studio behind the game will implement a point system so that players cannot use a complete team of powerful warriors in online combat. Now, this article is assuming that this is likely going to be one of the few negative aspects of this game. I disagree. I think that it's going to be one of the better aspects of the game because it's going to force players to use some of the underutilized Dragon Ball characters and prevent them from only picking the overpowered, Super Saiyan and Fusion characters. It's also been confirmed that they do not aim to have the game considered for esports under any circumstances. And I think that's how it should be. Dragon Ball is a franchise that should be for everybody. It should not be a thing that's made only for a competitive scene, such as esports. I think that was the major mistake that Dragon Ball FighterZ made. Because in developing a Dragon Ball game that's really only meant for esports, that's meant to be played on a high competitive level, what they've done is they've alienated the casual audience. And then there was the issue that I mentioned before with FighterZ, primarily being a game that's full of rushdown characters, that offers basically no avenue for other types of playstyles. So, going back to Sparking Zero, I'm glad that they haven't made this game, they haven't designed this game to be a serious competitive esports game. That would be a huge turnoff for me and for others. And going back to the point system, the way it's going to work, you can choose a team of up to 5 characters, as I mentioned previously. And the point of the point system is to prevent players from choosing the same characters over and over again, consistently with each online match. Now, this move from the Sparking Zero team is unusual, it's unconventional. I don't recall ever seeing a system like that in any fighting game I've ever played. But I think in this particular instance, it's warranted. And it'll balance the game out so players don't, pick the same overpowered characters over and over again. So I think Dragon Ball Sparking Zero will be, personally, my go-to for a Dragon Ball fighting experience to where I don't have to worry about players spamming the same rush-down playstyle that kills the fun of the game, like you have with Dragon Ball FighterZ. But at the same time, the game will have enough grounded mechanics to where there's enough depth there to where it can be taken somewhat seriously, unlike Xenoverse 2. But I will be keeping my eye out on any new information that this game receives leading up to release. And hopefully we'll have a trailer for, the GT stuff soon. And maybe a reveal of one of the movie and or filler characters from the series.